White House officials have said that all key records regarding the Solyndra loan approval have been released. What do they show, and will this scandal continue to be the Achilles heel in the Obama administration? I'm Alan Barton. Stand by for the front page. Joining me in studio, Tim Cavanaugh, managing editor of Reason.com, and Terry Jones, associate editor for Investors Business Daily. All right, a recent article by the Washington Post examines the circumstances surrounding Obama's visit in May of 2010. Quote, like most presidential appearances, Obama's May 2010 stop at Solyndra's headquarters was closely managed political theater. Obama's handlers had lengthy email discussions about how solar panels should be displayed from a robotic arm, it was decided. They cautioned the company's chief against wearing a suit. He opted for an open neck shirt and black slacks. And they asked another executive to wear a hard hat and a white smock. They instructed blue-collar employees to wear everyday work clothes to preserve what they called that construction worker feel. Wow. This is real. This is real. Unbelievable. That's not condescending, that construction worker feel. Terry, what do you make of this?
Do I have that construction worker feel?
You always communicate construction worker here.
This is a perfect example of why Americans often distrust both big business and big government, because when they get in bed together, the public gets screwed. That's exactly what happened here. Look, this was all this article, and a very admirable article by the normally liberal Washington Post to delve into this in such detail. This is a classic example of why these things are just crazy, and it's a pursuit of a policy through businesses and corrupting businesses and using public money to do it is just craziness.
And as it was falling apart, the only consideration was for the, as they say nowadays, ceaselessly, the optics.
The optics.
The optics of the situation. And the workers reading the article apparently were like shocked. They were like, all they care about is the politics. No, they didn't care about us.
Stunned.
Tim, you recently wrote an article in Reason Magazine where you talk about the billionaire investor George Kaiser and his stake in Solyndra. Talk to us a little bit about this scandal here, this particular angle. There's so many scandals regarding this.
First, I just want to say, I'm glad that you took the advice on the open neck shirt and no tie.
I like to preserve that blue collar feel.
It's pretty astounding. I mean, the stuff that gets thrown. First of all, the White House's claim that they've released everything pertinent to this. I mean, we have not heard from Rahm Emanuel in any way, shape, or form. We have not heard from Valerie Jarrett. Stephen Chu unfortunately survived his Senate grilling, and I think that may have taken the steam out of the Republicans on this issue. But the amount of glad handing that went on from all branches of the government, from every department, the IRS gave Solyndra customers a special break where if they painted their roof white, they could count the roof as solar equipment and get some kind of tax break on that. There was massive pressure on the U.S. Navy to buy these things. I mean, and these are cylindrical glass panels that are going to break if it hails. If you have sleet, the thing's going to get smashed, and the Navy is supposed to use it to defend our country.
Nuclear submarines.
And all of this happened. None of it can be tied directly to a meeting with George Kaiser. I have said from the beginning, I don't think there's going to be any criminal scandal here. I don't think they're going to get anything on these executives, but if it gets hot enough, obviously, if the government wants to convict you of something, it will. But what is the great value of Solyndra and why it was such a wonderful story of 2011 is that it really shed a light on how decisions get made when politics are
following up
involved
with this guy Kaiser, I mean, they talk about how he had a conversation with Obama at this Harry Reid fundraiser in Nevada, that he sat next to him for 2 hours and was just completely besotted with Obama's intellectual capability and the way he spoke with him. But isn't there something here about the president's involvement? Because clearly, and the records indicate that they were pushing like, well, why don't you talk to your friends in the White House about this? You don't feel that there's something better there to get them?
Oh, yes. No, absolutely. I mean, that's why I wish the Republicans well in their effort to subpoena, to get BlackBerry records, to get as much as they can. I mean, we need to hear more about what went on. It would be great if we had a smoking gun text from the president. I think it's going to be more in the area of will nobody rid me of this meddlesome priest? That everybody understood this is what the president wants. And if he didn't want it, he wouldn't have been there doing the photo op.
Well, he was warned, apparently, fairly strenuously by a lot of people. Don't go out to this company. You will be embarrassed. They're going under. And he still went.
Right.
I'm fascinated to find out what that was in his mind, that I'm going to go. It's going to be fine.
It was the audacity of hope.
It was the audacity of hope. Terry, one of the other scandals as part of this was that the rules were changed regarding what happens if this company goes bankrupt and who gets paid out first. And the taxpayers were left on the hook so that the private investors got paid off.
Private investors, including one of whom was George Kaiser.
This is one of the ancillary scandals of this, just epic waves of scandal regarding this green energy thing.
Well, and as I said earlier, this is what happens when business and government get in bed together. The taxpayer gets screwed, and that's exactly what happened here. And it's happened with you can just go down the list: Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, GM, Chrysler. Taxpayer always gets screwed. And they screwed bondholders in the case of GM, but this is the way it works in Washington these days.
What do you see in terms of going forward with regard? There's a lot of this kind of thing. You've got all these green energy investments, and then of course you have the NLRB and the scandals involved. Not scandal, but the curiosity about the stands they're taking with regard to Boeing, et cetera. What do you see going forward? Do you see that if Obama wins election, which you're predicting based on a Romney candidacy, we're in for a lot worse of this, right?
Having the Republicans in charge of Congress is, I'm a big fan of divided government, and so, in a way, I'm hoping whatever happens, whoever wins next year, I hope the other party takes the Congress. Yeah. It seems not to work when it's a Democratic Congress with a Republican president, but the other way, I remember the Clinton era, and things seemed to go pretty well then. Yeah. And I think you're going to see more of the Department of Energy's loan guarantee program really unwinding, because the green energy space is just not as big as people want it to be. These technologies just don't produce as much energy as people want them to produce. And I have, without any disrespect to
there's always a question that I have. How much energy does it take to manufacture a solar panel? And is that ever factored into the energy savings of installing a solar panel? I don't think it ever is.
The robot arm alone that held up the solar panel was a day's worth of a rooftop's production from Solyndra. Yeah, and
the forgotten man.
It's a shame. I'm not going to bias anybody about green technologies and so forth, but the actual subsidies that we're seeing, we're going to see more of those companies going belly up, and hopefully the taxpayers will not get as actively screwed as they did in the Solyndra bankruptcy, where they were really scrambling throughout 2011 to get George Kaiser his money back.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, interesting conversation. For more of Tim Cavanaugh, visit Reason.com. And to see more of Terry Jones, check out IBDeditorials.com. For Tim and Terry, I'm Alan Barton. You've been watching Front Page.